Hi everyone, this is Alex from Lincoln Park Library, and today's How To Tuesday is pumpkin muffins and how to make them using my favorite recipe that I use, every fall, even in the winter too, I will use this recipe. So to start off, step one is the ingredients list and what you're going to need to make these pumpkin muffins. So this is the standard recipe right here on the left. So you'll need 2 cups of all-purpose flour, 1 tablespoon of pumpkin pie spice, 1½ teaspoons of baking powder, half a teaspoon of baking soda, half a teaspoon of kosher salt, 1 15-ounce can of pumpkin puree, 1 1/4 cups of packed light brown sugar, 2 large eggs, and half a cup of vegetable oil. So some things to note, because I can't have wheat, I replaced the all-purpose flour with the Bob's Red Mill gluten-free 1-to-1 baking flour. Couldn't even tell the difference. If you're someone who's gluten-free, or if you know someone, you could totally swap out these two, and they're still fantastic. I also use fresh pumpkin puree instead of canned just because I had some. Either way, it tastes great. I also use dark brown sugar instead of light brown because I didn't have light brown sugar, I only had dark. Also, didn't really matter. These are just some substitutes, that I did based on what I had at home. And then I also had the recipe, and that ended up making 9 muffins. So they said that this recipe makes the full 12, but I don't think that's the case because the half makes 9. So I think it would make probably more than 12 if you're doubling it. But anyway, I halved it and, it made 9 muffins. So I thought that was a good amount for what I was making today. For step 2, you want to preheat the oven and prep your muffin tin. So first you want to preheat the oven to 375 degrees. And then you also want to line a muffin tin pan either with liners or you want to grease each well with butter. I happen to have cupcake liners, so I just put those in my muffin tin. For step 3, you want to measure and combine dry ingredients. So you're going to want to take a large mixing bowl and you want to whisk together the flour, baking powder, baking soda, salt, and the pumpkin pie spice. So I think the half recipe calls for like half a tablespoon of pumpkin pie spice or something like that. I do a heaping one of whatever the recipe calls for, half or full recipe, just because I like a lot of pumpkin pie spice in mine. That's up to you, but I did add quite a bit more than what the recipe called for, and I thought it tasted great. So just a little tidbit. And then you want to put that bowl aside once you mix all of those dry ingredients together. For step 4, you want to get a different bowl, and then you want to measure and combine the wet ingredients in that one. So that would be mixing together the pumpkin puree, the brown sugar, eggs, and vegetable oil. So you're going to want to whisk all of that together until it's combined and it's homogeneous, meaning that it's fully incorporated together, and there's not like a single egg floating somewhere or like a clump of brown sugar. You want it all to be thoroughly combined for the wet ingredients. And then step 5 is when you take those wet ingredients and those dry ingredients and you're going to put them together to make the batter. So pour the wet ingredients into the dry, and you're going to want to stir with a spoon or a rubber spatula, but just until it's combined and that there's no streaks of flour remaining in the batter. You don't want to overmix this batter. So there's normal for there to be clumps, especially when there's pumpkin involved, especially I use fresh pumpkin puree, so there's, a bunch of chunks and, streaky pumpkin pieces. You just don't want there to be any streaks of flour. But, go slow and just try not to overmix it because I know that's always my problem and I always have to consciously not do that. So once that's all mixed together, it's a little lumpy, that's fine. You move on to step 6, which is where you're going to want to pour the batter into the muffin tin. So like I said before, I did a half recipe, ended up giving me 9 muffins. I divided the batter evenly among these muffin cups, And each well should be filled approximately 3/4 of the way up, give or take. As long as they're even, that's really the more important thing, I think. And yeah, so for the half recipe, I made 9 muffins. And then we move on to step 7, which is baking the muffins. And I get a little nervous when I bake things, so I always stop the timer, 5, 10 minutes ahead, depending on what I'm baking. So I put these in for 15 minutes just to check them. They definitely were not ready in 15 minutes. The extra 5 for the 20 minutes was perfect. Once I put my toothpick in the center of the muffin, it came out clean at 20 minutes and they were ready to go. I still suggest, checking for yourself because everybody's ovens are different. Maybe your mix is different or how much you filled it is different. I suggest still, checking with the toothpick yourself and not just putting in for 20 and then taking out because you never know. There's a lot of different variables that impact how things bake. So yeah, that's how you bake pumpkin muffins. If you go out and, buy pumpkins and if you ever, got them for pies or anything, make sure you save some for these muffins because I think baking with the fresh pumpkin puree does make a difference. Like anything else, fresh is always better. So do save some if you are planning on making pumpkin pies this fall. But I hope you enjoy them. If you end up making them, send me pictures. I would love to see them or bring them in. I'm happy to try them if they're gluten-free. But I hope you enjoy, and thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.